Hello and welcome to this week's show of MBC Connect. I'm April Bragg and today we're talking about unification of Milledgeville and Baldwin County. My guests today are Stan Aldridge and David Luke. Stan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, April.
Now let's tell the audience a little bit about the unification process and really going back to the beginning of how this all got started.
I don't know that I can go all the way back to the beginning because it started before I was in Milledgeville. In the 70s, people talked about unification, talked about it off and on since then. But about 2 years ago, I think this process became pretty serious. That Partners for Progress hosted a forum for the city and the county and people to come in and talk about issues that they wanted to see addressed. And the unification of city and county government was the top item in that forum, and so at that point they appointed a government committee which was headed by
Merritt
Massey, and Merritt formed the government committee, and then from that they appointed a committee to write the charter. Part of what happened before that is we went up to University of Georgia, to the Carl Vinson Institute, talked to them and the folks from Athens and Clark County about the process that they went through. And Carl Vinson Institute has helped an awful lot of people go through this process, and had some of them come down, do some town hall meetings, that sort of thing, and decided it was something that we wanted to pursue. Mm-hmm. So the committee was appointed and we went to work.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit, maybe for those who aren't quite as involved in the process, really what unification is, what it's not, and then what that charter writing process looked like. Okay,
unification itself is just the combination of city and county government into one government. And it was done, it's being considered because we think it'd be more efficient. It would mean that the city and the county together would become one entity, and it'd have all the advantages of being a city government. It'd have all the advantages of being a county government. Mm-hmm. So anytime there's anything that they can apply for, a grant that they can apply for, anything else like that, then we could do that as a city or a county. And it also, a lot of those grants are based on population based, so we count the population from the entire county for either of those when we apply for them. But also a big issue is we just think it becomes a more efficient government. It allows for a council to decide on issues that they think are best for the entire population of the county, rather than having the city to fight for what's important for the city and the county to fight for what's important for the county. And we just think it's a much better, more efficient way to do business in a city and county our size.
Sure. Okay, so there was a charter writing committee that was appointed.
Yeah.
And that committee was comprised of 6 or 7 individuals?
There was 8 people.
8 individuals.
Ken Vance chaired that, and Ken was a huge help because he had experience as a city councilman as well as being full-time employed with Georgia College here, and so committee was great. I think it represented the entire county. We all expressed our opinions. We pushed for our issues at times, but in the end, when decisions were made, we supported those, and it was probably the best committee I've ever worked on.
Yeah, that's great, and I've heard you make that comment multiple times. Walk us through kind of the things that the committee took into consideration, public input, and things like that through the process, because you were charged with presenting a draft charter, if I'm correct, and coming up with a document that we could at least have as a foundation to see what a new unified government would look like. So walk us through that.
And like any other committee, we didn't reinvent the wheel. We looked at what Athens, Clark County had done, what Macon, Bibb County had done, used those as a template to do our thing and to develop a charter for Milledgeville and Baldwin County. Before we started that process, we went to City Council, told them what we were planning to do, asked for their support. I invited them to all the meetings, and then a week or so later, did the same thing with the county commission, and didn't get a lot of support from them. We had a couple of people, well, one person I think, to come to a couple of meetings. So we sat down and went to work and did it on our own. A lot of people had used the Carl Vinson Institute. We felt like we could do it without them because we had the charters that they'd helped do before, and a lot of it was cut and paste. A lot of it was to look at a template and decide how that applies to Milledgeville and Baldwin County and make some changes there. But a lot of the work, having their charters before us was a huge advantage as far as writing our charter.
Okay, and give the folks at home just a little glimpse of the kinds of things that you had to consider in a charter, because the charter is really a foundational document for the community and for the government that we have, but things like law enforcement, employees, elected officials.
Okay, I guess elected officials is probably the first thing that we thought about how to deal with, and we wanted it to be an efficient group, so we tried to keep it small. Initially, we said we would have one representative from each of the 5 districts that we have now as county commissioners, and they wouldn't necessarily be the county commissioners. We'd have new people to run for that, and then have one commissioner at large, and then one chair who would be basically the same, have basically the same authority that the mayor does over the city, that it would be the chief elected officer for Milledgeville and Baldwin County, and that the chair would have veto power, and so we felt like that was the person that the people of Baldwin County said, we want to lead our government. So it should be the most powerful person. Since then, we've gone back and presented this to the city council and county commissioners, that gave them a chance to look at it. At first, we said we were going to do this and present it as a done deal document without having any change anywhere. And I think that was a little bit of being a little hard-headed, because we didn't get a lot of input initially, and we just said, to heck with it, we got to write it and get it done.
And you spent a year doing that as well.
Absolutely. And so after thinking about it a little bit, we decided at a meeting with a joint meeting with city council and county commission, that we would allow them to have some input, and the mayor. And we suggested that they do that. They have made suggestions. We've been through those revisions. We met last week and talked those out, evaluated them, incorporated an awful lot of them into the charter that we had initially, and I think it's a much better document than we presented to them the first time. And going back to government officials, one of the things that we did away with was one of the commissioner at large. We still have the chair elected at large, but we felt like with the city council and county commission felt like that didn't totally represent the people like it should be, and we agreed with them, and we took the commissioner at large out, so there would be, if this were to go to vote today, then there would be 5 commissioners and a chair, which would act like the mayor does for the city, and they would be the primary people running city government. We had to decide about police force and law enforcement, taxes, all kinds of things there, and the police sheriff was a big issue, and it still is a big issue. We decided to go with the sheriff's department because it's a position that has to be here by law, and we felt like one was better than 2. And so that was the decision that we made there, and it's been somewhat controversial. With taxes, one of the things that people in the city feel like that they're double taxation. That's a tough issue. You look at it, we promised that we wouldn't raise taxes, and if we don't raise taxes and we do away with city taxes, then we don't have enough revenue to run the new government. What we had decided to do as a city, and one of the advantages of being both a city and a county, is that we have franchise fees that we're not collecting in the county, but we are collecting in the city. And that's a sizable sum of money. And a big decision we made last week was to try to find a way to reduce city taxes because taxes are based on services. And city obviously does get more services than most of the county does.
Sure.
But not as much as the difference in taxes.
Right.
So what we decided to do is in the charter say that for the first 2 years, the franchise fee money that was generated from the county portion that's not in the city, the new money, would be used to work with, to help us with transition costs for the first 2 years. But after the first 2 years, that excess revenue would go on a percentage basis to reduce city taxes, to make them more equitable with the services that they're receiving, and reduce that difference in taxes between city and county residents.
Yeah, well, wow, it sounds like a very involved process, and I know we've just touched the tip of the iceberg, but Stan, thank you for being our guest today. In our next segment, we'll be bringing David Luke to talk to us about where we are and where we go next. Stay with us.
Kids will spend 8 minutes decorating their little brother.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Being a dad can be tough.
No. What do you mean she's not coming?
When's the fairy princess coming?
Any minute now.
But when you're willing to do anything,
It is I, Cruz Zinkerbell. Okay, time for cake.
it's always worth it.
I know it's really you, Drew. I'm just pretending for the other kids.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by David Luke here to continue where Stan left off with a discussion about the unification of city and county government. But David, when we left, Stan was telling us about some of the various factors that go into the charter writing process and all of the things to be considered. And I know several weeks ago the Chamber hosted a community-wide Eggs and Issues breakfast. The two of you talked to a packed house of concerned citizens wanting to know, where we are, where we go next, and how we get there. So I'm going to jump right in with you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
First of all.
Glad to be here.
And really just kind of take over where Stan left off with all the things that are a part of the process and really where we are now.
Okay. Well, one of the things, April, first of all, thank you for allowing us to come on and talk about this. But this is a community project. Mm-hmm. And I think the Eggs and Issue breakfast, the forum, sort of related to that because people saw there was room for them to get involved. Mm-hmm. It's an instructive process. It's robust. There's a lot of learning that's involved. So when you have that type of forum and people start to ask questions, they then see the relevancy of their involvement. So no one can sit on this on the sideline and just say, this is not for me, because it really is a community process.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the biggest things that I have seen in the community and from a chamber standpoint is an increased awareness within the community as well as our elected bodies. There are a lot of conversations happening about functional unifications or streamlining of processes between the two governments because there are opportunities for us to realize that efficiency that Stan was speaking about. So walk us through. We had the Eggs and Issues breakfast several weeks ago. A lot of great questions were raised, and as Stan said, there have been a lot of modifications to the document since then. Where are we in the process now?
We're now going back to make the changes of the document. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be presenting that document to the both Joint Council for City and County Government. And from there, getting their input along the way. I think that part was sort of, if we had that hindsight before, we probably would have gotten them involved a lot more earlier. But they've been very cooperative. In fact, today we're going to be meeting with the mayor. We're going to be doing some things now that's going to push this document and this process along a lot faster. I think the people that are involved right now are giving us critical information. I wasn't a part of the charter writing process.
Right.
I'm more of a community input, but for me, we're doing something now that perhaps should have been done 20 years ago. And I think for every constituent in this city, it's going to benefit in some way. It's not going to be something that just benefit the white community or the black community. It's going to bring the community together. In so many ways, we are in dire need of an economic stimulus in our community. I think right now, this is going to be the catalyst that's going to help us do that.
Yeah. Well, I know in order for us to move forward with a unified government, or even that being presented as an option, we have to get a referendum, a local referendum, and I know that's part of your meetings with city and county. How can the public be involved? I know there's a lot of information, and for those of you watching, the charter, along with information about the charter writing committee and the process, is continually being updated. It's available online at MBCUnification.com, and that's managed by the chamber. We host that information, and as information is provided, we're updating that in order to keep the community engaged. I know the Union Recorder has done some polls, and from a result of polls, both done by the chamber and the Union Recorder, an overwhelming majority of respondents said that they want to see this on the ballot. They see this as a serious enough issue. What does that take to get on the ballot, and how can the community be involved in ensuring, if that's what they want to happen, that happens? Well,
we're going to ask the Joint Commission to vote yes to allow the constituency to vote on this as a process. So get in touch with your commissioner, with your city council person. Tell them that you're for it or against it. Get involved. Talk with them about it.
And let me clarify too, when you say for or against it, really at this point in the game, all we're talking about is, do you believe that the public has the right to vote on unification, whether up or down, whether you're for or against the document? At this point, we're really looking for an affirmation from city and county that, yes, we believe the public has the right to vote on this issue in order for it to be pushed forward to the state level so we can have an election on it.
Exactly. And staying involved, keeping up with the process. Like you mentioned, the Union Recorder is constantly keeping us up to date. Thank God for Keith Barlow and the team over there. Read your paper, but also get in touch with your representative and come out to the council meetings. Come out to the commission meetings and keep up with this process, because it's going to affect us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, David, let's look at some of the questions that were asked at the Eggs and Issues Breakfast. Let's see, what would the new makeup, excuse me, what would be the new makeup of the unified government if this issue passes? And I think Stan hit on that with the change, but so the new composition would be five commissioners, and then a chair who would serve as mayor.
Serve as mayor, and there will be no longer the at-large position. So that was a great point of contention. So that part was changed, and in fact I opposed that part of the document. So with that being changed, no voting districts will be touched. All 5 voting districts will be the same. So those are the types of things that that misinformation is the type of thing you need to keep up with. And these changes, of course, will be a part of the website. So go onto the website, look at the website, and see what we've done.
Yeah, and I think probably the most frequently asked question that you get is, what about current city and county employees? Are people going to be losing their jobs? How will we realize these efficiencies if they don't? So if you could speak to that.
That's the part that as a pastor, I'm a pastor here in town, and working people are an important part of my life, and I didn't want anybody to lose their jobs, and we really looked at the document critically from that standpoint, And when you look at the document now, you see that there's been some preservation there for people to keep their jobs. Now, however, unified government should be more efficient. So by the natural attrition, people may lose their job or be moved to a different position, but I don't think it would come in and cut the staff by 40%.
Right.
I think that fear was realized after we looked at the fact that, well, one, we couldn't do it. Secondly, that's everybody a part of this that I've talked to is opposed to people just losing their jobs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one thing that the Charter Writing Committee was very cognizant of, and they've ensured that no one will lose their jobs as a result of unification.
Exactly.
If there are two people with the same job and classification, one may be moved into a comparable position, same pay grade, same benefits, all of that, just might be doing a slightly different job. And so I think there was a lot of attention and care given to that, understanding what a sensitive subject that is in light of the economic downturn we've experienced locally and jobs loss as we're trying to rebuild our community. I think that's extremely important. Stan touched on how unification might affect taxes, of course, and understanding the use of the franchise fee. And if you could speak a little bit to that, because I think that might be a little bit of a misnomer for people who don't know what the franchise fee is and how that is administered.
Well, right now, the county isn't collecting any franchise fees. They're only collected in the city. So they would take that money and use it to offset the cost for unification. That also was a big point of contention. I was sitting in a meeting and someone was talking about the cost. Well, change costs. Progress costs. And whether you're a big company or a small company, when you make changes, it costs.
Right.
But if you're moving towards efficiency, the goal is to have that cost absorbed over time. And I think these franchise fees would be a great way to offset that cost, and it's something that other cities might not have thought about in the same sense. So I'm happy that Stan and others have come up with this idea. I'm not smart enough to come up with it, but that's pretty smart.
Yeah. Well, tell me, David, in your own words, what do you see as some of the greatest benefits to unification and also to this process? Well,
April, for 6 years, I lived on the south side of town. And now I live on the north side of town. There's a difference. There's a great difference. I want to see the playing field equal. I want to see the city come together and work together. The city use their strength, the county use their strength, and make this a wonderful city for all constituents. I think unification will force that, and I think I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's great. Well, David, it's been a pleasure having
Likewise.
you. As we all know, this is an evolution and a process, but it does take a village in order to move this forward. It does require that the community become engaged and involved. Again, you can find more information at mbcunification.com, and also look to the Union Recorder and other local media to stay informed. Thank you for joining us.